This is WWE superstar Drew McIntyre, and you're listening to the WWE Podcast.
The champ is
the one that everybody wants, me.
Becky Lynch is going to WrestleMania. Claymore!
Austin 316 says I just whipped your ass.
This is my idol. You're going to acknowledge me.
It's time for the current state of WWE. Back this week with Anthony DeMarco. We have a topic at hand that came across suddenly for me, and I have very conflicting thoughts. If you guys heard my week in review last night, you may have heard of my in-depth perspective already, but we haven't got Anthony's yet, and we're going to talk about Logan Paul and Roman Reigns. It's set for November 5th for Crown Jewel in Saudi Arabia. So, Anthony, welcome to the show, and what do you think about this?
It's weird. I know right before we hit the record button, you said you have conflicting thoughts, and so do I. On one hand, it's just a big sigh, right? Oh my God, are you serious? Logan Paul main eventing against Roman Reigns at one of their biggest pay-per-views or premier live events, a guy that's only had 2 matches in WWE, a social media star. But on the other hand, I look at it kind of in the context of Saudi Arabia, and it was actually Jim Cornette who made me kind of think about this, so credit to him on his drive-through, where he said, you kind of know that they're always going to do something goofy in Saudi Arabia. It's always going to be a goofy pay-per-view with, Goldberg coming back, or DX coming back, or the Brothers of Destruction coming back. You always know that when they go to Saudi Arabia, they're going to do something dumb. Because it's basically a gimme pay-per-view. They get paid so much money on a flat rate, I believe, that all the Saudis want are big names and people that are going to draw eyeballs. And Logan Paul is a guy that, like it or not, is going to draw eyeballs from places other than the wrestling community because he has, millions and millions of social media followers and all that. So if I'm looking at this in kind of a positive way, which is hard to do, I will admit, I'll say, would I rather Goldberg or Undertaker or Cain Velasquez, who are just embarrassments in the ring at this point and nobody wants to see, or do I rather a guy who, it doesn't make much sense that he's there and it's dumb that he's there, but at least he's going to put on a good match, at least it's a fresh face, and the guy is a natural. It's weird to say because he's such a dislikable guy inherently, but at the same time, you kind of are rooting for him because he picked it up so fast. I think his ring psychology is good. He has a pretty decent promo. So, I'm not thrilled about it, but mostly because you're just tacking on another month for Roman Reigns' manufactured run at this point. We know 100% that Roman Reigns is at least now keeping the belt till Survivor Series. That's what I hate about the most. And like you've said for the last 24 months, there's a consistent theme that it never feels like Roman Reigns has a legitimate shot of dropping the belt. But from an in-ring perspective, I think that we're at least going to see a good match.
The in-ring match we know is not going to be a problem. Logan Paul seems to have Kurt Angled this thing and really picked it up quickly, and good for him, and he's put in the work, and I respect that. But the crowd did not like it in Anaheim on SmackDown. They were booing this and actually cheering the Bloodline on this, if you heard, especially when Paul Heyman went toe-to-toe with him. It's just, I think people look at this in the States and they say, this is ridiculous. Like you said, he has had 2 matches. He's had 1 singles match, and he has basically been non-existent outside of just promoting those 2 matches, and we're all of a sudden supposed to believe that he's worthy of the top championship in WWE. It's from a fan's perspective, it's purely fan. It's ridiculous. It's groan-worthy. It doesn't make sense. It's angering, especially when you look at guys that should get a shot, like a Kevin Owens, like a Seth Rollins. But yes, it means that for 47 more days, he's going to be champion guaranteed. But I didn't look to Crown Jewel anyway as a potential time that he would lose the belt. I was always looking at Survivor Series, which is, I believe, a few weeks after. So, it's guaranteed that he's through Crown Jewel as champion, but I never really went, beyond that to say, yeah, he's going to be champion through Royal Rumble. Like, I always looked at Survivor Series anyway, which is after the event. So this angers me, but only to a point. Saudi Arabia is the goofball pay-per-view, and it's the prince over there who likes to just kind of, play WWE 2K22 and decide to make it real life, and he has the money to do that. That's the reason that they're doing this, is that, like you said, there is so much money on the line that even if it is an essentially an exhibition video game pay-per-view that they try to make come to life with god loads of money, from a WWE perspective, fans outside of Saudi Arabia, we look at this and just go, this is ridiculous. Like, every pay-per-view is ridiculous. Not every match on every show, but the main events specifically when they bring legends back. I'm surprised they haven't, put up the check for Stone Cold to come back and do some kind of goofy match or something. But yeah, this is an event that you look, I got to say, nobody I know, no fan that is not in Saudi Arabia looks at Saudi Arabia shows and go, oh man, I can't wait for Crown Jewel. I can't wait for the Greatest Royal Rumble. As regular fans, we dread these shows because they generally mean nothing. They're goofy, like you said. They are just playing in the sandbox because they they have an enormous amount of money. And I don't know, just as a regular fan, I don't know, maybe you feel differently, but every time I hear a Saudi Arabia show, I groan because I know it's a throwaway and it's a total waste of time.
Yeah, it is, because it's like you said, they're being paid a flat rate to go over there and appease, the prince or whoever's in charge or paying all this money. And, we're kind of seeing that in like the golf world right now with the Live Tour, where all these guys are paid flat rates. And the big criticism is like there's no real incentive for them to perform well and earn their paychecks. Kind of like what we saw with WCW back in the 90s. It's just paid these flat rates and you're getting your money no matter what, these guaranteed ironclad contracts. And like because of that, it's like WWE kind of has carte blanche to test things out as you just go and you get, big name level guys who are going to draw eyeballs to the product and not really appease the hardcore committed wrestling fans who watch Raw in, SmackDown in every week in and out. And unfortunately, every time we go to Saudi Arabia, it's like you said, it is kind of like an exhibition pay-per-view. I mean, off the top of my head, I think the one time that the belt did change was when The Fiend defeated Seth Rollins in the rematch from Hell in a Cell, the infamous Hell in a Cell match. But aside from that, I can't remember anything overly significant happening in Saudi Arabia. Maybe I'm missing something here, but like
Titus World Slide. I think Titus World Slide.
Titus World Slide. That's a good point. But like, the greatest Royal Rumble, like, okay, Braun Strowman won a 50-man Royal Rumble. What was that about? Honestly, like, you have DX versus the Brothers of Destruction, just a terrible embarrassment of a match that really put a whole kind of damper on Shawn Michaels' return. Like, this is a pay-per-view that unfortunately you just have to go in and just suspend your, not even disbelief, you just have to suspend your ability to buy into what's going on because it doesn't make sense. I guess with the Logan Paul stuff here is that I could at least respect the way that they went about building this program, that, Roman Reigns went on his podcast, they were acting fine, and then when Roman Reigns left the set, Logan Paul chirped him, and then started on social media. Like, I could respect the way they went about building this, and like I said, at least we're going to go in, and it's going to be a good match, it's something fresh. Like, I do like the way Logan Paul kind of, like his promos, I think he's good. The problem is that positioning him as a babyface I don't think is ever going to work, especially when you're catapulting him into the main event after having 2 matches and 1 singles match to speak of. But, I mean, I'm just trying to look at it a bit positively. But the thing that I'm more upset about isn't even the fact that Logan Paul is in the main event. It's that we're just, again, tacking on another month, tacking on another 2 months to Roman Reigns' title reign. And, aside from Drew McIntyre at Clash of the Castle, and you've said this a lot, like, it feels like every time Roman Reigns is booked to defend his championship, we know that he's going to walk away with the title. And it's becoming, as you said, manufactured at this point. And, they're jumping right past Extreme Rules. So we're just leapfrogging over pay-per-view, over pay-per-view, over pay-per-view. And the fact that he's on this, 900-day run or whatever it is, it feels manufactured. Like, I'm sorry, it doesn't feel real. Like, am I supposed to think that, like, and look, I'm no CM Punk mark by any stretch, but like, am I supposed to feel that Roman Reigns' current run is more significant than CM Punk's in 2012, 2013? I would disagree, because CM Punk was defending it at every B-level pay-per-view, fighting on Monday Night Raw. Like, he was always there. And yeah, it was only 18 months, but when you're there night in, night out, Raw and SmackDown, B-level pay-per-view, A-level pay-per-view, whatever it is, it feels much more important than, like, you show up for SummerSlam and then you bleep off for a couple weeks. You show up for Mania, then you bleep off for a couple weeks. You miss like 2 in every 3 pay-per-views. Like, this is something about Roman Reigns' run that for me is getting irritated, because we're supposed to feel like it's just this incredible run and he's dominating everyone. And this is not to, put a slight on his work as a performer. I think he's still very good on the mic. I think he still is over with the crowd. But it's just like, you can't convince me that this is like some historic run where he just has basically 3 to 4 weeks at a time artificially tacked on because he's just not showing up.
So much there. I would say that the fact that the worst part about this is exactly what you hit the nail on the head on, is that it's not like he's there consistently. It's there, and this is of course a very common complaint, and Triple H knows this, but the fact that it's like every other month, he's there every 5 SmackDowns, he's there every 10 Raws, like, that kind of schedule, it does piss off fans, because not only do we have Roman as champion for the last 2+ years, but he's not even there to defend it. So it's like the worst possible scenario you could create, where a champion people are just kind of apathetic about, in terms of just, they're done with it. They're over with it. The heel heat is gone. It's just anger with the company at this point, and the anger with creative of just letting this go. It's beyond that, as we've said, but it's more about the scheduling of Roman, and good for him for making millions and being able to work half the time. Good for him. I have nothing against him on that. It's just the circumstance is what it is, and I think fans are also tired of that, where not only are you putting both belts on one guy, no belt on Raw, he's not there every week, barely there once a month. It's the worst possible scenario you can have. And yeah, Logan Paul, the more I talk about it, the less angry I am. And, because this isn't a normal pay-per-view. If this was like the main event of Survivor Series or the main event of Rumble or something, this would be a totally different conversation. But given there's so much money on the line, and that I understand from a business perspective why they're doing what they're doing. Logan Paul has like 20 million followers on social media. I totally understand that why WWE is trying to tap into that. And it would create a media buzz more than like Seth Rollins, or rather Kevin Owens versus Roman Reigns. If just from a media perspective, Logan Paul's a bigger media star. He just is. So I get it. I understand what they're doing, so I can't fault them for that. They're a for-profit company. They're trying to make money. They're trying to maximize and bring over as many people that are following Logan Paul into the WWE product. I get it. So I'm angry from a fan perspective selfishly, but from a business standpoint, I would probably make the same damn call, and I hate to say that. For Saudi Arabia, not for a normal pay-per-view. That's the key, because there's so much money that the prince has that he can just play chess and play God and do whatever he wants with the WWE product. That's how much money the guy has. So I get that, but Roman Reigns' run, I believe he's at like 700 and I think he's 750, closely approaching 800. He'll be at 800 by the time Survivor Series rolls around. But then there's 200 days to go. And again, then we'll be 80% of the way. And as I've said, 1,000 days isn't too far after that. And so I think that they're looking at this as a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to say there's a 1,000-day run. But is it really a 1,000-day run? When you condense how many times he's been there, it's just like a 6-month run for a normal champion.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like, if you, let's say 5 years from now, someone asks you on your podcast on the mailbag, like half a decade from now, like which run would you say is more historic? And this is assuming Roman Reigns gets to 1,000 days. Would you say CM Punk's run in 2012 or Roman Reigns' current run?
I would. Well, hopefully by then he's not still champion, right? So like you're also assuming, right? But I would say it's hard, because right now it's easy to say, well, CM Punk's run. It's easy to say that because we're frustrated in the moment of this run. once you get retrospective on the totality of the run, maybe the fans and myself and you won't have such a sour view on it. We may look back and be like, yeah, that was really frustrating, but this and this and this happened. I'm not saying we'll look back on it with, with favor and with like just beauty. And I don't think any of that, but maybe some of the anger and frustration will have melted away and we can get kind of a level-headed perspective on it. It's really hard for me to say. I mean, right now, the easy answer is CM Punk's run, because we look back on that with fondness. We remember the impact that had. It took WWE out of a funk. It brought the guy that was kind of the Daniel Bryan of the time into the limelight, the guy that was there for a while. He had the pipe bomb promo. He felt like he was a reality. He was a real person in this fantasy environment that was just speaking his mind and all that. It was refreshing and it was fun and all of that. So yeah, it's easy to say CM Punk, but I don't know. I'm not trying to cop out, but I'm also trying to give this a realistic spin. In 5 years when this is over and you ask me that question, I really don't know what the answer is going to be, because I want to see how this plays out, and when it finally concludes, then I'll be able to give you an answer.
I guess it's just because at no point during CM Punk's run was I feeling frustrated with it, because I guess it made sense, and they did kind of turn him heel in the middle of it, which, I mean, you could argue was wrong or right, depending on who you ask. But it's just, I guess with Roman Reigns' run, and I hate saying this because I do honestly think that he's incredibly over, and I do think that he still is doing really good work himself, but it's just the booking has gotten to a point here where it's like nothing else matters in WWE aside from what this guy is doing. And I don't like feeling like there's one guy sitting on the top of the mountain and nobody's close. Like, you're always going to have one guy ahead of the curve, but like, you have to have some challengers that feel semi-legitimate. And, I think that they have that with Seth Rollins, although they refuse to push him in the main event as far as the world titles are concerned. I think that they had that with Drew McIntyre, but him losing now has slid him back down the card, and he's now entrenched in a feud with Karrion Kross. I don't know where the end game is with this. Like, I mean, if it goes down a path where, Kevin Owens comes to SmackDown and he joins forces with Sami Zayn, and Kevin Owens ultimately dethrones Roman Reigns, that's something I would really like to see. But like, if we're just going to go down this path with Roman Reigns with both championships, and he ends up facing The Rock at WrestleMania, and then like they're only going to start thinking about an exit strategy post WrestleMania and post 1,000 days, which I think would be around May if I'm not mistaken. Mm-hmm. If that's the case, like, it's just like, so we have to just sit through another 8 months of knowing that we are not going to see a new world champion. And like I said, if it was just one brand, the Universal Championship, fine. I don't think I would care that much. But it's the fact that both shows are hijacked. Like, Raw has not had a consistent world champion since like February, because even when Brock won it at the Elimination Chamber, he barely appeared on Monday Night Raw. Like, his program with Roman Reigns leading into WrestleMania was primarily a SmackDown feud. He just won the Raw Championship, and because he's a free agent, he was predominantly showing up on SmackDown. So your A show, for all intents and purposes, has had no world champion consistently since February. And like, look, I like that they've pushed Bobby Lashley in the U.S. Championship a lot. I like that they've kind of made Seth Rollins and Kevin Owens, even without a championship, feel like the main eventers on Monday Night Raw. But at the same time, like, that should be your secondary storylines. Like, the entire reason why you're in a professional sport or in a simulated sport like wrestling is to win championships. And if there's no world championship to compete for, why the hell are you there? Like, it's so frustrating because it defies logic after a certain point. You know what I mean?
Logic is gone. Logic has left. Logic left a long time ago with this, other than, again, the 1,000 days. And I keep honing in on that, but I hate to say it because I know what they're going for, because that's the WWE way. They love their records. They love their first time evers. They love their being able to, imagine them trying to promote the 1,000-day reign of Roman Reigns on Raw. I mean, you're going to hear about it for weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks. And I understand that, but okay. What's the payoff to that? Okay, you get to 1,000, congrats. Like, okay, wait, well, what is this for? A documentary? Like, well, what is this? The intangible, unbelievable benefit of getting to that 1,000 days that will forego all of the time right now of being able to bring a world champion to Raw on a consistent basis, of just finally satisfying the fans, of not even just angry that Roman's champion, that just they don't have a champion on Raw that's there ever. And like you said, since what, 7 months ago? So beyond that stupid 1,000-day marker of just kind of a superficial run, a number, they just want to get to that number. It's like, well, what exactly is going to provide that benefit to you that will balance out all the negative that in the meantime you're going to have to deal with? Because if I'm looking forward here, I mean, the more I look, I'll say this: if he gets past Survivor Series against Seth Rollins, I'm going to make this statement right now. If he gets past Seth Rollins at Survivor Series, he will be champion through WrestleMania, because I don't think December has a pay-per-view, and he probably would have taken it off anyway. You have the Royal Rumble, of which, okay, yeah, but that's one of their big four, but the problem is, when you get to the Rumble, WWE's like, well, WrestleMania is only a couple months away. Why drop the belt now? Why not have it, at WrestleMania or beyond? So Rumble is too close to Mania for them to anybody to make an argument that he should drop the belt there. And okay, The Rock comes back, and the more I think about it, they're probably going to make The Rock versus Roman for the championship. I really think that, even with Triple H in charge. So to me, the finish line is Survivor Series, or they're going to 1,000 days. Like, I really believe it. I don't think he'll lose it in December, because there's nothing happening. In January, you have the Rumble. February is used to be No Way Out or Fastlane or where the hell that pay-per-view is now. Nobody's going to drop the belt the month before the pay-per-view. I mean, or before WrestleMania. Let's just be real. And then, of course, March is like just one big build to WrestleMania at the beginning of April. So if it's not Survivor Series, I'm telling you right now, it will be after WrestleMania or beyond to hit the 1,000 days.
Well, what if Roman Reigns only drops one championship to Seth Rollins at Survivor Series?
I don't care. That's fine. That's fine. I was advocating for that at Clash at the Castle. We think Drew wins both. There's a loophole. It ended up being one. Drew didn't read the fine print. I don't care, whatever the wise man wanted to do. He pulled some strings. Roman did drop one belt. I was hoping that would happen. That's fine with me. If they want to have him drop one belt, fine. Continue your streak to 5,000 days. I mean, you know what I mean? Like, within reason, but you want to go for 1,000 days, I think fine. Then you could have your run. The count started before you won the WWE Championship. It can continue after you drop it and keep the Universal, because the Universal Championship to me is like the foundational run for Roman. It's like the glue that holds everything together. Yeah, the WWE Championship is in there, but the run and days that started the count were way before he won that. So I'm fine with that, and I was advocating for that, and I would still advocate for that through WrestleMania. If you want to somehow have him drop one belt, good. I think that's actually a fairly good chance of happening, given that you don't want the one world championship match to be Roman and Rock, and leave once again on the table guys that deserve a championship match at WrestleMania, like Kevin and Seth. Guys like that. I mean, I'd love them both to be there, but Cody Rhodes is probably going to be there and others. But my point is, you can't just suck it up with Roman and Rock with the championship. It's not fair to the guys there. And I'm sure that if you were to put truth serum in them, they would be pissed about this. And I'm sure they're pissed now.
Yeah. And, I think there's a way here, and I think I brought up last week, where in my opinion, I know they want to get to the 1,000 days. I understand that, or we're speculating that they want to get to that. But, in my mind, you could have 3 mega matches here at WrestleMania, because I don't think, and you've said this too, that Roman and Rock need a world championship. And I believe Sean what's his name? Ross Sapp? Is that his name?
Yep.
Of Fightful. He has said the same thing. That's a match that does not need a world championship. Like Rock Cena 1, or as bad as the in-ring match was, but Taker and Roman. There are some matches that don't need it. HBK and Undertaker. And I think this is one of those matches. And imagine if, for me, I would like to see Kevin Owens win the Universal Championship. I think that under Triple H, he's a guy that could be a main eventer. He's done it before. And if you had Kevin Owens going into Mania as Universal Champion, and you had Seth going into WrestleMania as WWE Champion, and then you had Roman Rock, which you could still have main event the show, or at least one night. We know it's 2 nights now. I think that's a way that you have 3 mega matches, and I would argue that all are as important because, like, with Kevin Owens as Universal Champion, you know that Triple H is not going to neglect him. Like, could you imagine what for the Universal Championship at WrestleMania, Kevin Owens versus Sami Zayn or something like that? Like, I know that we've seen it 6 million times, but under Triple H's creative, maybe it would be better. Or then on the Raw side, you could have Seth Rollins versus Drew McIntyre for the WWE Championship. Like, I just think that as of right now, because of how strongly you've booked Roman, you could create megastars if they aren't already there in Kevin Owens and Seth Rollins, and then also still have a main event with Rock and Roman. Like, for me, it's low-hanging fruit, but at the same time, I know that you don't want to make Roman Reigns look weak at all going into his match versus The Rock.
There gives me hope, as you said, with Triple H in charge, that he will be more responsive to what the fans are asking for. Now, I know he didn't give us what we want at Clash of the Castle, which did disappoint me and surprise me a bit. But with Triple H there, it gives me more hope that the next 3 WrestleMania main events aren't going to be Roman Reigns versus, whoever. Right? I mean, because if Vince McMahon were still here, I wouldn't even be thinking that they would drop the belt before WrestleMania. Like, it would be, to me, almost a guarantee if Vince were still here that Roman's going to carry that belt through probably, springtime next year. Get 1,000 days and then drop it. But with Triple H here, I think that he knows what he has in Kevin Owens. We've seen what Kevin Owens has done the last few Monday Night Raws. Last month, really. Him coming out and cutting promo after promo, like, where the hell has this been? Why didn't Vince use Kevin Owens like this? I mean, you're seeing it. He's creating moment after moment with Drew McIntyre. You're putting that little seed of doubt in Sami Zayn's head of, you used to be somebody until you grew out your hair and became like the lackey for the bloodline. And so he's come out and he's really laid into people. And Theory this past week talking about, I've seen hundreds of guys like you that look like you come and go and fizzle out. I mean, just a great promo. Every time I hear his music on Raw, it's no longer, I look at it and go, well, this will be a nice moment until I see him again in like 8 weeks and he'll be doing nothing and doing a random KO show. Like, that's what Vince did with him, and it was bizarre. But now Kevin Owens, I think, has a much better chance with Triple H there to main event with Seth, or Cody and Seth and Kevin. I mean, I could see it. I mean, I hate to say it, a triple threat at WrestleMania if one of the belts comes off Roman.
Damn, I forgot about Cody.
And, yeah, I know. And you and I are on the same exact page with his babyface character. I mean, nothing about in-ring is a problem, but he belongs a heel. No, I mean, 1,000,000%. And the fans, I think, will eventually see it, as they did in AEW. But I think that possibly you could get a triple threat of Seth versus Kevin versus Cody at WrestleMania for the WWE Championship, if we can somehow strip one of the championships off of Roman.
Yeah, and just quickly on Cody, like, I could be objective. Like, I'm not a huge fan of him, but at least, like, if he won the championship, I wouldn't love it, but subjectively, that would be me talking subjectively. But objectively, at least I could say, like, okay, it's a new run. He is predominantly over with the majority of the crowd. It's just, and it sucks, man, because, like, Roman at this point, like, this isn't me even saying, like, Roman of, let's say, 2017. Where, like, I've just had it with his character, I've had it with him, I don't want to see him, it's go away heat. Like, that's not it. Like, I actually still like his character, and I think you've mentioned it recently that when they do decide to pull the trigger on him being a babyface, I think it's going to work. It's just with him dominating and monopolizing the main event and the world championships, it's run its course, and that's okay. It's okay. You have a megastar. You, like, credit to Vince McMahon on finally pulling the trigger on turning him heel. You finally got this guy over, and you know what? You're right. In the right character and in the right context, this guy is a big star in wrestling. But it's over now. Not in terms of him being a star, but this current run, it's over. And you could put the belt back on him in a year as a babyface. Have him win the Royal Rumble in 2024 and main event WrestleMania against Seth Rollins. I don't care. But this particular run needs to end now. It's too much. And now we're starting to get back to where we were in like 2016, 2017, where and it's taken way longer to get there, I may add. But we're starting to get to that point where it's just like, okay, enough of Roman Reigns. Stop jamming it down our throats. We get it. He's the best guy you think in the company. But it's enough now. That's all. I just think it's enough.
Yeah, that's the thing, and that's the thing that I'm sure I would argue if I was to talk to Triple H or any of the management, anybody on creative, they would tell me, well, you're acting exactly the way that you should, being so frustrated with Roman Reigns. See, we're getting you angry. It's like, yeah, but that's not the anger you want from fans of directing it at the company. Like, we're not directing it at Roman. We all, I think, unanimously, with some exceptions, believe that he's had a career run. He's right now, even if his career ended now, he'd be a Hall of Famer. And there's a great babyface turn coming. He's really good in the ring. He's improved immensely on the microphone. This is all just objective stuff, not even subjective. That's all wonderful. But right now, it's turned where the fans are just they're just angry at creative, and it's gone beyond like getting invested in the pro wrestling storyline, to the point of just being fed up and anger. The boos you're hearing aren't necessarily for, man, oh man, Roman's doing such a good job being a heel now, like I want to boo him and play along. It's symbolically booing the creative team. That's what this is. It's just booing at the company. If management were to come out, that's who we really want to boo right now, because it's not fair to the guys who want to be able to main event that have been hamstrung the last really since WrestleMania when the titles merged, and there's no champion. We've gone over it, So to me, it's a shame that it's not 2024 in a couple of months, because I would really be looking to MJF to come back or come into WWE. I really believe in 2024 MJF will come to WWE. I think that they'll pay him whatever the hell he wants, and I would love MJF in there. Unfortunately, it's about a year and change away, unless there's some kind of wacky thing that happens. And yeah, he's going to be an awesome heel, but if MJF were to go face to face with Roman Reigns, I mean, the verbal abuse that Roman Reigns would take, I would pay hundreds of dollars to see that promo that MJF is going to cut on Roman Reigns if it ever happened. But unfortunately, that's next year in terms of, 2024. So in the meantime, yeah, the fans are just tired of they're angry at the company. They're not angry at Roman Reigns, and we've played along. It's been great. It's just time.
Yep, I agree. There's not really much more to say about it. It's just unfortunate that we're guaranteed to have to wait to Survivor Series minimum at this point.
Yeah, exactly. Minimum. And I'm telling you, again, if it's past Survivor Series, I don't know how you feel. This is the last question. If it goes past Survivor Series and he beats Seth Rollins, assumingly that's his opponent, do you think he'll go to WrestleMania and face The Rock for the championship?
I still think, and maybe it's just me being hopeless, or like just holding out hope rather, but I still think they're going to find a way to get at least one championship off of him. I honestly believe that based on things I've read online. They're just trying to figure out a way to do that. But if he gets by Seth Rollins, I would guarantee that he's at least going in with the Universal Championship.
Agreed. Yeah, I do believe that that's probably what they'll do, and they'll keep the Universal on him. And then that way Raw has something to do with a world championship. And we don't have at WrestleMania 39 another, just as we've said, hijacked main event of just Roman and Roman and Roman and Roman. If Vince were here, he would do Roman versus Roman somehow. Like, he would find a way for Roman to face himself at WrestleMania. But now we have Triple H, and I think he will actually succumb to the fans' pressure of dropping one of the belts. Maybe it'll happen in the draft, and maybe Triple H himself comes out and says, hey, look, Roman, you're not losing the belt here. We're just doing a draft. Raw has to have a champion. That way it saves face for Roman, so he never loses. He didn't lose, and they could keep that also going, that streak. People forget that. He actually hasn't lost even a match, I don't believe, even by association, I don't think, since his win at SummerSlam in 2020. So they could keep that going of just having Triple H do it. The fans will love it. That'll put faith back in the company from a creative standpoint, and then you can continue the streak. So Roman's not damaged at all. It's just he's just a victim of the system, where that's what we're doing, and we're taking one of the belts off you, and we're doing this at the draft. I mean, that very well could be that could be the case. So
Yeah, well, you just have to hope because, like I said, I think if they could just get the WWE Championship after them, off of them rather, it would go a very, very long way.
Yes.
That's like I think a lot more people would have an appetite to see the Universal Championship continue if they could just get the WWE Championship off of them.
Exactly, and that's the last thing I'll say too is like I think that the fans would actually kind of be reinvested into Roman Reigns again and go, okay, well, Roman Reigns has been champion for a while, but I'm kind of interested to see how long this can go. Is Rock going to face him for the belt? Can he go to Rumble? What's going to happen there? Is he going to be involved in the Rumble match? Then fans I think would be more back into the pro wrestling side of it. Of oh, man, I want someone to see him. I want someone to beat him instead of just angry at the company because they can fall back on well, Raw has a champion. So I think that would really solve. I hate to say it's kind of a cure-all. I mean, it kind of is an easy cure-all, and yeah, you'd be going back on the WrestleMania main event stipulation, but I don't give a damn. I don't care. No one cares. They've done more egregious things in the past. So, all right, well, that kind of wraps things up here. We'll say goodbye, but before we go, let everybody know, if you want, your social media and that the show that you do every Friday.
Yeah, so my social media, AdaMarco25 on Twitter, and every Friday I drop WWE Retro, and this past week was SmackDown, the house that AJ Styles built during the time where he dominated the blue brand from mid-2016 to early 2019, and I think we forget just how prominent of a character he was on SmackDown during those years because he's predominantly been on Raw since the pandemic started.
Yeah, no, that was a fun listen. It was a lot of fun to go back to that time. I think of time that, like you said, just before the pandemic, a couple of years, and I forgot how good that AJ Styles was as champion and how elevated he felt, and really, sadly, how far he's fallen now.
He deserves another run.
Just one, and then he can call it a career. Even if it's like a 3-4 month run, I'd be on board for it. But yeah. All right, well, very good. Thank you, buddy. We'll be talking next week.
Yeah, man. Looking forward to it.
All right. Bye-bye.
Thanks for listening to the WWE Podcast. Don't forget to subscribe on your favorite podcast app so you don't miss a show, or head to WWEpodcast.com. And for all of these shows ad-free, head over to patreon.com/WWE Podcast. Until then, we'll see you next time.